Now, one last point before we're done here with short-run profit maximization. The other point is that you have another decision you have to make in the short run, which is should you produce at all or should you just shut down? Should you produce at all or should you just shut down? Okay? So suppose the price in the market suddenly dropped to $3. Suppose that, and let's go back to the case without the tax, okay? No tax. So we're back to this cost equation, okay? But now let's say the price drops to 3. There's a huge, I don't know what it is. Nobody wants your product anymore. The price drops to 3, okay? Now, how much, if the price is 3, how many units should you produce? At the old cost curve. If the price is 3, how many units you should produce? 2. Because remember, marginal cost, which is 1.5 Q, equals 3. So Q star equals 2. You should produce 2 units. Okay. If you produce 2 units, what are your total revenues? What are your total costs? Your total costs are 13, right? 10 plus 0.75 times 2 squared is 13. So you're losing money. You're losing money because you're going to make 6 and it's going to cost you 13. So should you shut down the business? Yes or no, and tell me why. Should you shut down the business? Yeah.
Is the initial $10 already gone?
It's a fixed cost. It's a fixed cost, which means it's fixed in the short run, which means you've already invested it. Yeah.
Well, you don't necessarily. Well, I mean, if it's just in the short run, can't you operate at a loss in the short run?
Indeed. Why would you want to operate at a loss in the short run?
For the potential of not being at a loss in the long run?
Well, let me think of it this way. Think of a simple way. What is shutting down equivalent to? Q equals 0, right? So let's compare your profits at Q equals 2 to your profits at Q equals 0. What are your profits at Q equals 0? Negative 10. Okay, what are your profits at Q equals 2? Okay, negative, what do we say? Negative 7. So you're better off staying open, even though you're losing money. And the reason is because exactly what was said here, because you've paid those fixed costs, you might as well stay open and hope something turns around for you. Okay? So with shutdown decision, we could think of as modeling Q equals 0. And Q equals 0 is a profit of negative 10. So you're better off staying open. Okay? And so the bottom line is you only shut down if you lose money on the margin. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Then at what point do you firm shut down?
Well, basically, essentially in the long run, you're going to then be reoptimizing and saying, well, gee, now when I revisit my capital investment decision, can I shrink my 10 down? If the answer is no, next period is going to be the same, then I shut it down. But that's a long run decision. Remember, there's no entry or exit. In the short run, I'm just stuck paying those costs. So in the short run, there's no sense in shutting it down because I've already committed those costs. Okay, did you question? Okay? So the bottom line is you only want to shut down if the negative profits you make on the next unit are larger than the actual fixed cost you paid to get it in the first place. So in other words, you only want to shut down if the revenues you earn, which is price times quantity, okay, are less than the variable costs you're actually paying to produce. The fixed costs are gone, you've paid them. So you know at Q equals 0 you're paying those fixed costs. The question is, having paid those fixed costs, should I produce the next unit? Well, should I produce it all? Well, I only want to produce, I would only shut down if the revenues I earn are less than the actual cost of production above and beyond the fixed costs, my variable costs. So in other words, I only shut down if price is less than average variable costs. The shutdown rule is I only shut down if price is less than average variable costs. If on average the variable costs are greater than the price, then I do want to shut down. Okay? Now in fact, let's look at this cost function. This cost function, what's average variable costs? Well, average variable costs are 0.75 Q squared. So average variable costs are 0.75 Q. Okay? Now let's think about the firm's production decision. The firm's production decision is the firm produces where marginal cost which equals 1.5 Q equals price. Okay? So it produces where marginal cost equals 1.5 Q equals price. Okay? So average variable cost is 0.75 times Q. But we know the optimal Q is P over 1.5. Okay? We know the optimal Q is P over 1.5. Okay? So therefore, the firm is going to ask, is average variable cost is 0.75. It wants to ask, is the average variable cost greater than 0.75 Q? Okay, that's the point at which it's going to shut down. Okay? But and the question, is that going to happen? That's only going to happen if we can plug this back, we can plug in this equation. That's going to happen if average variable cost, okay, is greater than 0.75 times 1.5 times price over 1.5. I'm sorry. Okay, and that's basically the point, the shutdown rule the firm's going to face. Okay, that's the point at which the firm is going to decide to shut down, because it's got to do two things. It's got to satisfy the marginal cost equation. It's got to produce at this level, and it's got to assess whether average variable cost is greater than the actual amount that it's going to get for the good at that point. Okay, so that's essentially how the firm makes a shutdown rule. This is a confusing example. We will email around a clarification on this because I'm making this too confusing. But the bottom line is, if you're a firm, you've got to think of two things. You've got to choose the price, which is profit maximizing, where price equals marginal cost. And you have to also make sure that you can actually make some money, that you actually can cover your fixed costs. You want to make sure that you're doing better than producing nothing. Okay? That's what you want to do. You want to make sure you're doing better than producing nothing. If it's better to produce nothing, then you might as well shut down. If it's not better to produce nothing, you shouldn't shut down.